Hello and welcome back to Let's Get Digital. This is Megan, and today I want to talk about how to get comfortable in front of the camera, because I feel like I gloss this over a lot, or I don't necessarily think about it, but it is one of the most important things to do if you want to start creating content. There are obviously a ton of like YouTube channels or pieces of content on social media where it is faceless, so the person isn't putting themselves on camera. But for the sake of this video, we're going to talk about how to put yourself on camera, because really at the end of the day, if you want to build a strong personal brand, it is always really impactful if you yourself are going to show up on camera. So I have been filming myself for the past, I feel like since I came out of the womb. I always used to make like stupid homemade videos or videos for school projects, even though my teachers didn't necessarily want me to do that. I would do it anyways because I've always kind of been obsessed with film. But even so, it was like nerve-wracking for me to start filming myself, especially in a more professional setting. Like when you're young and you're goofing around, that's one thing. But then I moved to LA and I was acting on camera, I was filming content, and it probably makes anyone nervous. So it took me a while to get comfortable, and it took a shit ton of practice. If you are someone who wants to put yourself on camera and you feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed, you don't know where to begin, I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks that have helped me, have helped our clients. And what I will say is it's totally normal to feel overwhelmed or uncomfortable if you don't have a lot of experience filming yourself. Okay, so there are a ton of different ways you could get comfortable, but the best way is practice. You have to practice. Like when I first started filming myself, I, create a lot of comedy videos. And so I had this YouTube channel with a friend. This is going back like 10 years ago now. And I set up my dad's old camera and I just let it roll as my friend and I did this comedy sketch that went on for way too long. We never cut. We didn't get different angles or different shots. We just basically we're kind of both getting used to being on camera, and we did that consistently, I'd say at least 5 days a week for about a year until I started to feel really comfortable being on camera. I don't know what it is. It's not like there's a person staring at you even when you're filming. It's just something with a camera makes people very nervous. That's normal. So you need to practice as much as possible, especially if you're first starting out. And just to give you one more example, I film content all the time. I have way too many social media accounts, and even if I take a week or two off from filming, I start feeling uncertain. I'm overthinking things. I'm not as quick to film. I'm not as comfortable. And that's after having filmed for years. So practicing is the biggest thing, because if you can feel comfortable on camera, it's going to come across in your content, which will lead to more followers, more sales, more brand awareness, etc. And it's a win-win. Okay, another thing to do is to prepare your content. A lot of times, and I've done this way too much to be honest, you get really excited about filming something. I'm so guilty of this, especially with my comedy stuff. You'll get so excited to film something. You just are like, all right, let's go, let's film it. And you don't really know what you're doing or what you're talking about. Maybe you have a rough idea, but the more prepared you are and the more concrete you are in what you're going to film, the easier, especially when you're starting out. So for instance, say you own a coffee company. I'm totally pulling this out of my ass. Say you own a coffee company, you're the owner and you want to create your own content for your company. You want to put yourself on camera. Say one video you want to do is about telling your brand story, why you started this coffee company, what's different about your coffee company compared to other people, etc. You basically just want to have an outline of what you're going to say in that video and make sure you hit the majority of the points. You don't want to sit there and read from a piece of paper. And again, this is where practice comes in, but you want to at least know where your video is going to go so you don't start rambling and find that you end up on a totally different tangent than you started out with, which is super common. I do this all the time. So the more prepared you are, the better. And it'll also give you more fuel to keep creating videos, because you're like, okay, I can do that. I came up with a topic, I spoke about it, now I can do it again. And another tip related to this is that I would keep your content short, especially starting out. You don't want to have to sit there and give like an hour-long talk on video if you're not comfortable with being on camera. You could even record a 30-second, 60-second video of you talking about your brand, and the more you do it, the longer you'll be able to keep going and the longer content you'll be able to create, but keeping it short in the beginning is always really helpful. Another tip, which you may not like, especially in the beginning if you're not comfortable with seeing yourself on camera, is to watch the playback. You can do this. The best way to do this is with no pressure. So you don't necessarily want to do this if you have to create this piece of content that you need to put out. Especially if you're starting out, do it with something where the pressure's off. You can even talk about a funny story. You could talk about what you like or dislike. You could introduce yourself on camera, film it, and then play it for yourself. You don't need to show it to anyone. It's going to feel weird at first. You're gonna think you look weird. You're gonna look at your hair. You're gonna look at your makeup if you're wearing makeup, and you're gonna overanalyze things. But it's really good to get comfortable seeing yourself on camera because it gets a lot easier. At first, when I saw myself on camera, I freaked out. I did not want to look at myself. I used to actually film with a friend and tell her, do not show me the final product, just post it. I don't even want to see it, just post it, because I would scrutinize. I don't want you to get in the habit of scrutinizing. That's not what this is designed for. So you shouldn't sit there and nitpick every single thing that you see is wrong with you. I know women do this a lot and are really hard on themselves, but the purpose of this is not to sit there and focus on your flaws. It's more so to see what you could do better at, improve, and just to get used to literally seeing yourself on camera. It's kind of like when you hear your voice in a recording for the first time, it sounds so weird, and then you start to get used to it. So it's good to get in that mindset of seeing yourself on camera. I have seen situations where people go and look at themselves, they freak out even more, and then never want to film themselves again. So if you're really, really, really anxious about this, you are almost at the point where you're having panic attacks filming yourself, just don't jump to do this. Give yourself more practice before you sit there and look at what you're doing. But if you are a little further along your journey of filming, it's always good to look at yourself, look at playback, because you'll notice things even like you say too much, which I do all the time, or you're doing something weird with your hands, which I also do all the time, or you're hunching your shoulders, which I've also done, or you're doing weird shoulder movements. Like there's stuff that people do on camera that they don't even necessarily do in real life. So it's just good to notice, to pick up on, and then to improve later on. Okay, another great tip is to get comfortable with your setup. So again, when I did first start filming, I did this exact thing. I had my camera and tripod in the exact same spot in my apartment at the time, with a screen behind me, very similar to here, but way less professional. And I had my light, and it was by my window, and it was the same area every single time. And I left it there honestly for close to like the first year of me filming content, just because it felt really familiar and I knew how the lighting would look. I knew how I was going to look sitting in the same spot. I guess it was very comforting knowing that, like knowing the space more than just, going and filming in random different spaces. So that's always a really good way to start, even if you're filming on your cell phone. Set it up on a windowsill, on a tripod, whatever you want, ring light, and even if you're standing in the same spot, just to get familiar with the repetition and with seeing yourself in the same angle will make it a lot easier than seeing yourself in different lighting, different location, etc., because you're gonna look different, obviously, in different places. So this brings a sense of familiarity, and I think will give you more confidence, and soon you will then be able to move your camera to other places and get familiar with those places as well. Because ideally, you do want to get to a place where you can film on the go anywhere in any location, but that takes a lot of practice. So starting simple is always a good idea. Okay, another tip, dress comfortably, or dress in something that makes you feel good. This is actually, not to get too hippy-dippy whimsical, but there is I don't know if you know what Kabbalah is. It's kind of like a spiritual practice, but there's a concept in Kabbalah that says that your clothes and things that you wear, your jewelry, you know, accessories, etc., they can literally elevate your vibration, your energy, etc. So even if that sounds totally insane to you, my point in saying that is that really, like, clothing, the way you dress, the way you hold yourself, the way you wear your hair, your makeup can really make you feel better. Like, I know women probably know this, but if you're having a crappy day and you feel like shit, this happened to me during the pandemic when everyone was kind of locked inside. I felt like absolute garbage. And there were some days where I was just like, you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to put on makeup and I'm going to put on a cute outfit, even if it's to go to the freaking Walgreens, but it makes you feel a little better. So you want to wear something that's going to elevate you, that makes you feel good, but also comfortable. If you're not comfortable on camera, you don't want to wear, for instance, a skirt that's like suffocating you and you can't breathe well, or a top that's way too small, or that's rubbing you. Especially when you're already kind of in your head about this, clothing like that is really going to take you out of the present moment and distract you. So something that's comfortable, but that also elevates you and makes you feel good about yourself is going to make a difference. Even if it's super, super subtle, it really will. Another tip, which I think is always a great idea. I'm an actor, so we would do these in theater camp, theater school, theater classes, whatever, all the time, but you can do some warm-ups. And this could look different for anyone. It could be anything from sitting in front of the camera with the camera off to making weird faces in front of the camera. I had an acting teacher in LA who told us that to get familiar with filming in front of the camera is to sit in front of a camera and tell it to go screw itself, which is outrageous, but just getting familiar with really looking into the camera and talking to it. So you could do something like that. You could, you know, not with the camera, you could just dance around like a crazy person, shake it out, do some vocal exercises, sing your favorite song, jump around, do a workout, do a meditation, do a relaxation technique. This is like such a personalized thing, but anything that will get you present, get you out of your head, will release some energy out of your body will be really helpful when you start filming, because you're already going to be anxious. So if you get some of that nervous energy out, it's really helpful. I do this before I do a stand-up show or an improv class or anything performative before I'm on camera. I always will work out before I film if I can. Anything along those lines that's going to get you out of your head and get you more present is always a good idea. Okay, another tip is to sit before you film. You could do this in front of the camera, not in front of the camera, whatever you want, and visualize success. So just visualize yourself calmly sitting in front of the camera. I'm literally doing it now, and speaking to the camera and doing a really great job and filming something quick and fun. And then you see maybe anything that, you know, says success to you. So, you know, maybe you just filmed a super quick 30-second video and you see yourself smiling and you're confident. And so if you just do this for a few seconds before you film, it always helps. It's like athletes will visualize success before they hit the court. When I used to dance and I had a performance, like I would visualize myself doing really well and like nailing the moves before I got out on stage. So it always helps in a ton of different ways. So that's always something that could help you as well, especially if you are feeling super nervous. If you start picturing yourself failing miserably, you want to stay away from that. I know obviously like thoughts like that will pop up, but just brush them aside and come back to seeing yourself doing really well, because you're going to do well. There's, you know, this isn't like speaking to a camera is so much easier, for instance, than like speaking in front of a big crowd. So you can do this and just visualize success and you'll be successful. Last two, one, I kind of touched on this, but it is engaging with the camera. I told that story about my acting coach who told me to, or told all of us to look into the camera and tell it to go screw itself. So you could do something like that. If it makes you angry, you could also talk to the camera like a friend, like literally have the camera off, not recording anything, and sit and tell a story, talk to it like you would talk to a pet or a child or a husband, wife, parent, etc. And just get used to having that lens look at you. I don't know what it is. The lens just really freaks people out, but just look into it, talk to it like you're confiding in someone, like a therapist, friend, sibling, family member, etc. And you'll start to get more comfortable. Again, I used to do this all the time And you can even do this every time you go to film. Take a few minutes to do it beforehand, and I guarantee it will help. This is like one of the biggest helpful tips, because if you really are freaking out, you just need to get comfortable with that thing staring at you, and then you hit the on button and it's gonna be the same thing. Okay, number 10 is it's kind of 2 in 1, but to keep a positive mindset and to stay consistent. So it's really easy for people to feel discouraged, to overanalyze themselves, their looks, the way they're talking, especially if you are not used to seeing yourself on camera. This is totally normal, so try not to spiral. You want to remain positive. Rome wasn't built in a day. Nobody became a pro athlete by, playing a sport one time. You want to keep a positive mindset, even if you feel like crap, and you want to stay consistent. So you want to keep filming as much as possible, because this is the only way to get more comfortable, to get better. And some people pick this up quicker than others. It takes people decades to get really comfortable on camera, and that's totally fine. But the more you practice, the more you start getting used to speaking to the camera, the better you're going to do. So just don't give up on yourself. Don't freak out. Don't judge yourself. I promise you look better on camera than you think you do, and you guys got this. So I believe in you. Go make some content. Go film yourself. If you have any other tips that work for you for filming, for getting comfortable in front of the camera, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments below, and subscribe for more tips and tricks from a digital marketing expert. Okay, talk to you soon.